Welcome to Risk Management Chapter 2. Risk Identification and Assessment. In this chapter, we will look at the following subtopics. Risk Identification and Assessment. Techniques for identifying risks. Tools for assessing risk probability and impact. Prioritizing risks based on severity. Subtopic 1. Risk Identification and Assessment. Risk identification and assessment are fundamental steps in the risk management process. They involve identifying potential risks that could affect an organization or project and assessing their likelihood of occurrence and potential impact. By systematically identifying and analyzing risks, organizations can better understand their vulnerabilities and make informed decisions to mitigate or manage them effectively. Risk identification. Risk identification is the process of identifying potential risks that may pose a threat or opportunity to an organization or project. This step involves systematically identifying and documenting risks across various areas such as operations, finance, technology, legal, market conditions, and human resources. It can be done through various methods, including brainstorming sessions, interviews, historical data analysis, checklists, and lessons learned from similar projects or experiences. During risk identification, it is important to consider both internal and external factors that may contribute to risks. Internal risks may arise from within the organization, such as process failures, resource constraints, or employee errors. External risks, on the other hand, are influenced by external factors like regulatory changes, economic fluctuations, natural disasters, or technological disruptions. Risk assessment. Once potential risks are identified, the next step is risk assessment. Risk assessment involves evaluating the identified risks based on their likelihood of occurrence and their potential impact on the organization or project. This assessment helps prioritize risks and determine which ones require immediate attention. Risk assessment typically involves two key factors. 1. Likelihood. This factor determines the probability of a risk event occurring. It involves analyzing historical data, expert judgment, industry trends, and other relevant information to assess the likelihood of a risk materializing. 2. Impact. The impact refers to the potential consequences or severity of a risk event if it occurs. This involves considering both quantitative and qualitative factors, such as financial loss, reputation damage, safety hazards, legal implications, or project delays. By combining the assessment of likelihood and impact, risks can be classified into different categories, such as high, medium, or low priority. This prioritization helps in allocating resources and developing appropriate risk response strategies. Risk identification and assessment are critical steps in the risk management process. They enable organizations to proactively identify potential risks, understand their potential impact, and prioritize them based on their significance. By effectively identifying and assessing risks, organizations can develop targeted risk mitigation strategies and enhance their overall resilience in the face of uncertainties. Subtopic 2. Techniques for identifying risks. There are several techniques that organizations can use to identify risks. Here are some commonly used techniques. First technique is through brainstorming. Brainstorming sessions involve bringing together a group of individuals with diverse expertise and perspectives to generate a list of potential risks. Participants freely share their ideas and insights, allowing for a wide range of risks to be identified. Second technique, SWOT analysis. SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, analysis is a structured approach that helps identify both internal and external risks. It involves analyzing an organization's strengths and weaknesses as well as the opportunities and threats it faces. The threats identified in the analysis represent potential risks. Third technique, checklists and templates. Using predefined checklists or templates specific to an industry or project can help ensure comprehensive risk identification. These checklists often cover different risk categories and prompt individuals or teams to consider various aspects of their operations, processes, or projects. Fourth one is through lessons learned. Reviewing lessons learned from past projects or experiences can provide valuable insights into risks that have occurred previously. This allows organizations to identify recurring or similar risks and take preventive measures. Fifth technique is from expert interviews and surveys. Conducting interviews or surveys with subject matter experts within the organization or industry can help identify risks that might be overlooked. Experts can provide insights based on their knowledge and experience, highlighting potential risks specific to their area of expertise. Sixth technique is documentation and review. Analyzing existing documentation such as project plans, process maps, incident reports, and industry reports can uncover potential risks. Reviewing these materials with a risk management perspective can reveal risks that are already documented or have been experienced in the past. The seventh and most practical technique is through scenario analysis. Scenario analysis involves creating hypothetical scenarios and evaluating the risks associated with each scenario. By considering different possible future situations, organizations can identify risks that may arise under specific conditions. Eighth and the last one is from external research and benchmarking. Conducting external research and benchmarking against industry best practices can provide insights into risks that are prevalent in the industry or specific to certain activities. This helps organizations identify risks that they might not have considered internally. It is often beneficial to use a combination of these techniques to ensure a comprehensive and well-rounded risk identification process. The involvement of multiple stakeholders, including employees at different levels of the organization, subject matter experts, and external consultants, can bring diverse perspectives and enhance the effectiveness of risk identification efforts. Subtopic 3. Tools for assessing risk probability and impact. There are various tools and techniques available to assess the probability and impact of risks. Here are some commonly used tools. 1. Probability and Impact Matrix. This matrix involves assessing risks based on their probability of occurrence and the potential impact they could have on the organization or project. Risks are typically plotted on a grid with probability on one axis and impact on the other. The matrix helps visualize and prioritize risks based on their likelihood and severity. 2. Risk scoring. Risk scoring assigns numerical values to risks based on their probability and impact. Each risk is assigned a score, often on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, representing the likelihood and impact levels. The scores can then be used to rank and prioritize risks. 3. Risk registers. Risk registers are comprehensive databases or spreadsheets that capture information about identified risks, including their description, likelihood, impact, and other relevant details. Risk registers can also include fields for assessing risk probability and impact, allowing for a structured and systematic evaluation of risks. 4. Delphi technique. The Delphi technique involves soliciting input and expert opinions from a panel of stakeholders anonymously. Experts provide their assessments of risk probability and impact, which are then compiled and analyzed. The process typically involves multiple rounds of feedback and consensus building to arrive at a final assessment. 5. Quantitative risk analysis. This technique involves using statistical methods, data analysis, and modeling to quantitatively assess the probability and impact of risks. It can involve techniques such as Monte Carlo simulation, decision trees, or sensitivity analysis. Quantitative risk analysis provides a more precise assessment of risks based on available data and can help in making informed decisions. 6. Expert judgment. Expert judgment relies on the knowledge and experience of subject matter experts to assess the probability and impact of risks. Experts provide their qualitative assessments based on their expertise and understanding of the organization, industry, or specific project. Expert judgment can be gathered through interviews, workshops, or expert panels. 7. Historical data analysis. Analyzing historical data, such as past incidents, near misses, or performance records, can provide insights into the likelihood and impact of similar risks occurring in the future. By reviewing past occurrences, organizations can make informed assessments of risk probability and impact. It's important to note that the choice of tools and techniques depends on the nature of the organization, the complexity of the risks, and the available resources. A combination of these tools may be used to ensure a comprehensive assessment of risk probability and impact. Subtopic: Prioritizing risks based on severity. When prioritizing risks based on severity, organizations typically consider the potential impact and consequences of each risk. Severity refers to the extent of harm or damage a risk can cause if it materializes. Here are some steps to prioritize risks based on severity. By assessing the impact. Evaluate the potential impact of each identified risk on various aspects of the organization, such as financial, operational, reputational, legal, or safety. Consider both short-term and long-term consequences. The impact assessment can be qualitative, example, high, medium, low, or quantitative, example, monetary value, time delay. Considering probability. Assess the likelihood or probability of each risk occurring. This helps determine the likelihood of experiencing the potential impact. Probability can be estimated based on historical data, expert judgment, industry benchmarks, or statistical analysis. Determining risk ratings. Combine the impact and probability assessments to assign risk ratings or scores to each identified risk. This can be done using a numerical scale, example 1 to 5, or a color-coded system, example red, yellow, green. The risk ratings help in comparing and prioritizing risks. Categorizing each risks. Group risks into categories based on their risk ratings. For example, high-severity risks with a high probability of occurrence may be categorized as critical risks, while risks with lower severity or probability may be classified as moderate or low risks. Ranking of risks. Rank the risks within each category based on their severity. This ranking can be done based on the risk ratings assigned in the previous steps. This step helps establish a clear order of priority for addressing risks. Consider risk interdependencies. Assess the interdependencies between different risks. Some risks may be interconnected or have a cascading effect, amplifying their impact. Consider these interdependencies when prioritizing risks, as mitigating a high-severity risk may also help in reducing the impact of other related risks. Review and refine. Regularly review and update the risk prioritization based on changes in the risk landscape, new information, or evolving circumstances. Risk prioritization should be an iterative process to ensure that the most critical risks are continually addressed. By prioritizing risks based on severity, organizations can focus their resources and efforts on managing the most significant risks that could have a substantial impact on their objectives and operations. It allows for more effective allocation of resources to mitigate or respond to high-priority risks and enhances overall risk management efforts. Up next. Chapter 3. Risk Analysis and Planning.